Truck drivers, what's a creepy story you've got from the middle of nowhere? The obligatory, not a truck driver but a second-hand story I heard. My great uncle drove big trucks, living in the middle of nowhere, sometimes people would leave trash on the road. And since he had a big truck, he just smashed into the boxes or paper and continue on. One day, he was coming up on a cardboard box and just had the urge to swerve and miss this one. He misses it and passes by with no incident. Looks in his rear view to look at the box and out pops a kindergarten-age little kid that just heads back to their house like nothing happened. When I was in high school, my friends and I used to go near graveyards at night and tell scary stories. One night we were all just sitting and telling stories and from the corner of my eye, I saw a figure get up from the grave and walk towards the rear gate. I freaked the fuck out and asked others if they saw what I saw and everyone nodded yes. We fucking ran for our lives and one of our friends got so scared that he had a fever for 3 days. A few weeks later we found out that this guy was real and he used to sleep with his deceased wife's grave. I never had such confusing emotions that came after learning this. Even after knowing, I still had that scary feeling and I was sad for the guy. Years ago, I read an answer on a thread with this question about a guy who was riding with his truck driver father as a child. They were in the middle of nowhere and they were coming up on a person laying in the road with no one else around. His dad blew the horn, they didn't move. He blew it again, as he got closer, they didn't move. He told his son to put his head down and cover his eyes, and he ran the person over. When they looked back, a bunch of people who were previously hiding or running out of the woods, and the gist was that his dad knew it was a setup for a robbery or worse and wasn't chancing it with his child in the car. No clue if it was true or not, but I think about that story all the time. Not exactly creepy, but definitely terrifying. My father was a truck driver and he was driving through a smaller town in Northern California hauling tomatoes. Suddenly he got incredibly tired. Wasn't low on sleep or deprived at all but ended up passing out at the wheel. Last thing he saw was the light of the town in front of him. He woke up about 2 hours later on the other side of the town, perfectly parked on the side of the road. He swears something was looking out for him that night. I was living in my car for some time and had a missing window that I patched with a trash bag. I was asleep in the back and then woke up to hear someone tapping the windows and trying the doors. I hoped and prayed for them to leave and things got quiet. Then the fucking junkie ripped off the trash bag, tried to climb in, and got the ever-loving fuck stomped out of his head against a door frame. He ran off into the night, I wiped up the blood, patched the window, drove to a different town to park, and didn't catch any sleep for days. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend fighting off unseen intruders in the middle of the night from the backseat of your car. A good buddy of mine is a long-haul driver for my company. A few months ago, he woke up in a parking lot surrounded by police. Some dude had gotten shot and dumped 15 feet from his truck. Driving through a national park in the middle of the night, going through a slow stretch at about 30 miles an hour. Every so often I think I see something out of the window and beside me. Just a glimpse of movement. When I look though, I don't catch it. Finally, on about the third time I whip my head around and this time I recognize it's a huge black wolf following alongside my truck just off the highway. I only saw it for a few seconds before I had to focus back on the road, but it was absolutely lovely yet unsettling. Not a truck driver, but I have one weird story from when I was a kid. My parents always took us on long road trips every summer and my dad liked to take meandering routes through rural towns to see all the tourist traps. One trip, we passed through a little town in Illinois, the kind you miss if you sneeze. This one had mannequins. Every house and business was only populated by mannequins. I don't remember seeing any people. Everything looked maintained and clean, so someone was at least caring for the place. There weren't any signs or anything indicating that was for tourists. Just a convenience store and bait shop with a sign reading "Eat here. Get worms." Driving through an abandoned section of Baltimore at 3 in the morning, my CB radio turned itself on and crackled for a bit. Out of nowhere some voice over the radio said in the deep southern drawl, "I ain't got no panties on." I could see up and down the interstate for miles and saw not one set of headlights. Not sure if this story is creepy, but it's definitely scary. My father was a truck driver in East Africa in the 80s and early 90s. During the years leading up to the Rwandan genocide, my father was passing through Rwanda. He reached a checkpoint and was forcibly removed from his truck at gunpoint. Apparently he looked like he belongs to the Tutsi tribe and they put him in a cage with other Tutsi prisoners. He tried communicating that he isn't Rwandan, but no one spoke the same language as him. Every night they would take about 5 people from the cage and slaughter them in front of him. After the third night, he saw a man that spoke a little bit of Swahili, which my dad spoke, and told him that he's not Rwandan and showed him his ID. Somehow that guy got him out and he was handed the keys to his truck and was on his way.